Hey everybody, today we're going to be taking a look at the Honest Kitchen pet food, specifically their dog food, what goes in it, and how our dog Hobbs has enjoyed eating it over the past couple weeks. First, I want to talk about what the Honest Kitchen is all about. So, the Honest Kitchen makes human-grade pet food for both dogs and cats that is free from a lot of the feed-grade quality ingredients that you find in a lot of cheaper pet food. The other thing about the Honest Kitchen is that it's a certified B Corp. So while a lot of businesses are C Corps, which are more oriented around profit, basically, B Corps are designed to address and accommodate some of the environmental and social issues that we have in the world today, and that companies can kind of make better or worse as they make products. So a few of the ways the Honest Kitchen does this is it has transitioned a lot of its chicken products to GAP Chicken, or the Global Animal Partnership. It also sources its fish for its cat products through the Maritime Stewardship Council. It does its best to source its ingredients locally to reduce environmental impact, but it also makes sure to source 100% of its produce and fruit from places where GMOs are either not used or outright banned. So it actually sources a lot of its produce from Europe, where some of the GMOs that we use in America aren't even allowed over there. And this is all done on the back of research that indicates that GMOs can contribute to inflammation of the gut lining and other problems that just can cause disease and exacerbate health issues. And all of this is done so that the end product is healthier for your pet and will contribute to their holistic health and a longer, happier, healthier life. So today we're going to look at several of their dog products. We don't have everything because they have a lot of products, but first what I want to look at is what we've been feeding our dog for the past couple weeks, and it's their wet food. So we review a lot of human-grade fresh and wet foods here at the Dogtail because they're ultimately a lot healthier and less processed for your dog. And the Honest Kitchen's Pâté and stews are two of their human-grade wet food options. So what goes into this is only whole meats and veggies. It doesn't have any meat meals, which you'll find in a lot of kibbles. So meat meals are basically produced from grinding up the carcasses of animals that might have been used for other purposes. So they're often it's basically feed-grade leftovers that are ground up and fed to your pet, and there's a lot less quality control over the sanitation of these ingredients, as well as the nutritional quality afterwards. So in here you're going to find beef, lamb, and vegetables. You can see here in the ingredients list, I don't know if it shows up well, but beef and beef bone broth and beef liver are the first three ingredients, and then lamb, carrots, broccoli, peas. So you don't see on a lot of foods, beef meal would have been the first ingredient, and that's just a lot lower quality ingredient. The fact that there's bone broth is great because it's actually extracting some of the nutrients out of the bone, which gets left out in a lot of pet food, and that can be really good for your dogs. It provides minerals as well as nutrients for your dog's joints and cartilage and stuff like that. The fact that it includes organ meat is really good because the organs include a lot of nutrients that aren't always included in cheaper food. And then having yet another meat after that as the fourth ingredient just shows how much high quality protein is going into this. And then the rest of the ingredient list, it has a bunch of minerals, it has some vegetables, salmon oil down here, dried kelp. So a lot of good stuff that's going to be good for your dogs for all aspects. So nutrients they need, it's high in protein, it's going to have minerals and fatty oils and acids for their bone, for their joints, for fighting inflammation, all sorts of stuff. So I'm gonna actually open this up and show you what it looks like. So you can kind of squeeze it open like the old milk boxes you might have had when you were in school, or you can just use scissors, which is what I usually do. And depending on how you're feeding this to your dog, might dictate what's better. So you can feed this as a standalone meal. It's approved for all life stages, although they make recommendations on their website about, you know, adults versus really active adults versus seniors and stuff like that. But the other thing you can do is you can mix it with other types of food. So it's a wet food, right? So it's basically kind of a stewish thing. It's, you know, it doesn't look like something I want to put on my plate necessarily because it's designed for the palate of a dog. But you can see right away, like, so I spooned it out. Look at all this ground meat and broth here is all really good. It actually smells like, you know, I'm smelling it. It smells like I don't know, kind of like a pot roast type of thing. It smells good. It doesn't smell like dog food at all. Immediately I saw a whole pea in here, which is cool. I'm also seeing some carrot chunk there. So this is like real food. This is basically what would be inside of like a shepherd's pie without the crust. Sorry, dogs. But it's pretty high quality food. And that is a complete wet food. This is perfect if your dog has bad teeth and they can't chew kibble, or if you want to, you know, mix it 50-50 with something because you want to increase their diet, increase the quality of their diet without, you know, breaking the bank or something. It's really good for that. You can use the whole box. If you don't use the whole box, just fold it back up and you can put it in the fridge. You can put it in a Ziploc bag if you want to, and it'll keep for a couple days. But the boxes themselves aren't huge, so it's not like you're gonna have an open box for a long amount of time. Yeah, so that's the beef, lamb, and spring veggies pate. I've been feeding this to Hobbs for a few days, and I'll give you some footage of him eating it. He loves it. He immediately rushes over. He's sniffing around right now. I can hear him because he smells that I opened this. Next, I'm gonna show you the stew though. So this is another one of their wet foods. So I think the stew is probably pretty comparable to the pate. It's slow-cooked chicken stew. They have other recipes, but this is what we have. Slow-cooked chicken stew with sweet potatoes, spinach, and apples. It's approved for all life stages, so it's good for your dog. And it's all human grade, just like the pate, made in a human food facility. So alongside other food that you might get for yourself at the grocery store, this is made there. The ingredients are, let's see, it's right here. Chicken bone broth, sweet potatoes, spinach, apples, tapioca, and a bunch of minerals, which are necessary. And then towards the end, salmon oil, dried kelp, and cinnamon. So these are all like generally pretty good ingredients. Again, you don't see a meat meal at the beginning of that list. You also don't see on a lot of pet foods, you're gonna have like cornmeal. Some of the cheapest, biggest brands of kibble that you definitely know of, cornmeal is like the first ingredient, and that's basically, you're basically serving your dog popcorn. Like it's not a necessarily like nourishing ingredient. It's just filler. It's fluff to make it cheaper for them to produce. So the fact that you've just got a whole meat at the beginning here is really good. And again, this is going to be good for all ages, and you can feed it as a standalone meal, or you can mix it in with other food if you want. It's up to you. So this is, I think, going to be a little bit runnier than the pate, although I'm not 100% sure. It's pretty similar. Yeah, it is a little less chunky. So you can see, I'll just leave the spoon in there. So here is the stew next to the pate. This is basically the consistency of like ground meat with broth. This is much more of a soupy texture. So if you have a really picky dog, it might mean one or the other. I know cats can get really picky about texture. I don't know dogs to be as picky, but who knows? Otherwise, I think either of these are probably fairly interchangeable. You could try both. I do like that the pate had more meat earlier in the ingredients list. However, which that might make me choose the pate over the broth. I do want to look at the protein content of, so 13.5 for this pate, which You can't compare protein content of wet food and dry food. The dry food's gonna look like it has way more protein, but that's because the moisture's taken out of the measurements. So 13.5 is actually a pretty strong high protein level. And this is 9% protein. Okay, so at least comparing these two recipes, the chicken stew has a little bit less protein content than the beef and lamb pâté. So which is better for your pet would depend on your pet and their stage and whether you want to have them on a higher or lower protein diet. I know some dogs with like kidney issues, for example, might need a little bit less protein. So the stew might be better in that case. If you've got a healthy, active adult dog, the higher protein might be better. Let me look at this one. So this is the salmon and chicken stew, and that is 10% protein. So again, a little bit less, and 3% fat, which I would think the salmon would up the fat content a little bit. It'd be healthy fats. Yeah, whereas this is 2% fat. So there's an example of a little bit more fat and a little bit more protein. That fat sourced from the salmon would be good for your dog's coat and skin health, as well as maybe their joints. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. So that's another one of the stews. The pâté, again, we've got turkey, duck, and root veggies pâté. So let's look at that. 10.5% protein, so less, and 5% fat. So what you can see is you've got a bunch of product and recipe options depending on what your dog needs. Do they want more protein, more fat, less fat, as well as other things? Do they have inflammation and you want to try to get certain ingredients? Do they have a sensitivity to poultry, right? Then you can do different ingredients. I know you want to eat. I know. My dog is anxiously sniffing around my feet. Next, I'm going to look at the dehydrated food. So they've got the pâté and they've got the stews, and those are both whole meals that you can feed to any life stage. They also offer these dehydrated foods. So these dehydrated foods are made with the same quality of ingredients. You've got human grade, for example, turkey and chicken here. Now the chicken is gently dehydrated, which is important because the way kibble is made and the way kibble ingredients are dehydrated is that they're extruded at an extremely high temperature to remove all the moisture and form them into those little shelf-stable pellets, and that destroys a lot of the nutrients in the ingredients. These are slowly dehydrated and then ground into these fine powder with the other ingredients. And what these are for is it is a base that you just add water to make your own dog food. Now, a lot of dog food bases are designed around you introducing your own meat, so you'd get like a canned tuna or something like that. These actually include meat in them though. So let's look at the protein content. Okay, so the protein content here is 24.5%, which again, when you compare dry to wet, it's not a one-to-one comparison. But this is more in line with like the types of measurements you'd see in dry food like kibble, so it's a good protein content. And you're not gonna get 24% protein on a base that doesn't have the meat already included. So these are interesting because they are more friendly to ship because they weigh a lot less than the wet food. And it's super easy to make. All you do is you pour it into a bowl and add warm water, and you just wait a couple minutes for it to basically absorb the water. So we'll show you what that looks like in a second. So this food is really good if you ever need to travel and bring your pet's food with you, because you literally just pour it out and then add warm water. And they say to wait 3 minutes. I mean, honestly, probably depends on the patience of your dog. But you are gonna want to give it a little bit of a stir to help it absorb. And this food is available in packets as small as this, if you have a small dog, to bigger boxes. So this is a 2-pound box, and it's not all individually packaged. You know, again, back to them being a B Corp, they want to be thoughtful about how they affect the environment and freight costs and stuff like that. So it's in a bigger package here, which is good if you have a bigger dog, or if you just want to, buying in bulk makes it cheaper. So you can get it, that's a 2-pound box. It goes up to as big as 10 pounds at a time. So if you have a larger dog, you can scale up the packaging and the cost a little bit. But it's already, you know, so it's basically get like an oatmeal texture. And that's going to be good, really good if you have a dog that can't chew dry food, or if you're just, you know, on the go and you want to bring some pet food with you, or if you want to put this on top of kibble or any manner of combinations you can do. In here you can see real ingredients just like in the other food. It's not exactly the most appetizing thing to look at, but I bet your dog won't complain. And lastly, we have their bone broth pour-overs. So they have a bunch of broths and pour-overs and basically liquid supplements that you can mix with your food. And these are really great because they have a lot of nutrients in them extracted from the ingredients that go into it. So this is made with turkey bone broth, turkey, carrots, butternut squash, tapioca, salmon, thyme, and sage. So super simple, short ingredient list, super nutritious. A lot of you probably know that bone broth is great for you. Well, this is the exact same thing, just it's made without garlic and onions and things that would be toxic for a dog. No byproducts are made with it. It's all human grade ingredients, so they didn't haul a deer off of the side of the highway and make bone broth with it. Which, you know, I wish I didn't have to say, but in the pet industry you actually do need to worry about that. None of the ingredients are GMO'd or anything like that. And so what's this good for? It's good for a couple things. First of all, if you just want to give your dog a really healthy treat that would promote, for example, joint health, if your dog's starting to get a little bit older and you want to get ahead of joint deterioration and things like that, it's good. But it's also really great to convince a picky dog to eat dry food that they're not necessarily interested in anymore. So Hobbs, we feed him a variety of different types of food, and we rotate through it to give him a good diet, and eventually sometimes he'll get bored of certain foods, and so bone broth is a really, really great and easy way to immediately make him interested in it, especially if you warm it up just a little bit and pour it over. All of the aroma is going to come out and they're going to gobble up whatever you put it on. I'll show you what it looks like, although I don't think it's going to be shocking because it's just broth. So you open it, cut the top, and without spilling, I'm going to try to show you. So it comes out, and it's a little bit more, oops, okay. Well, there's actually real ingredients in there, which is why that just burst out. And you see it's kind of got the consistency of the stew. So if you're looking for a more affordable topper versus the stew, which is a whole standalone meal, this can be mixed in. It's pretty liquidy, you can see, but it's not just water. There's actually like substantial ingredients in this, which is really good because while like pure liquid broths are also excellent, you're just getting a little bit more like actual nutrition here with this. So my recommendation for bone broths would be you could put it into like an ice cube tray and freeze it as a healthy treat. What I would do is I would pour it over kibble or something if you're trying to convince your dog to eat it. A lot of these products they also have for cats, so if you have a dog and a cat, you can source all of your food from one store there. And not pictured here is dry food. So they also have a kibble alternative, which is crunchy dry food. It's going to be more economical, I think, than their wet food if you're interested in going that route. Ultimately, I'd recommend wet food over dry food if you can afford it, because it's just generally wet food is less processed and a little bit healthier. But their kibble specifically, or their clusters, are all entirely human grade, unlike most kibble you find isn't human grade. You know, you're not supposed to eat it. You could crunch on these things. I don't recommend it, but you could. And it's got human grade ingredients. There's no meat meals, no like byproducts or anything like that. And one really great recommendation is to order the dry food along with either some broth or some stew, for example, and you can mix them 50-50, and that's a way to seriously upgrade your dog's diet. I think when we consider the price of a lot of kibble and you expect to get a 35-pound bag of food for $30, that's not what the price should be, and we shouldn't be surprised when a bag of food costs more than that. We've just been conditioned to kind of expect that level, but the reason so many dogs have increasing rates of cancer and joint disease and inflammation, all of these things, a lot of it goes back to their diet. Their diet is at the core of their holistic health and whether or not they can even absorb the nutrients in their food that's necessary to fight these diseases. So what you feed your dog starting now is going to affect their longevity and mobility and comfort throughout the rest of their life. And so any action you can take to upgrade their diet is worth it. Now, we have worked with The Honest Kitchen to get a discount for all of you reading this. If you would like to try the food out, you can use the code DOGTAIL30. We'll also link below to the website so that you can automatically get a discount applied when you go over there.